quick follow-up, let's talk about also Hagar in the Book of Jubilees. And before I go into Hagar in Jubilees, let's just understand who Hagar is. According to two of the ancient Jewish Hebrew midrashim on the Torah, she was a princess of Egypt. So we're going to read really quickly those two of who was Hagar, how did she come to be part of the family of Abraham in the first place. First of all, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, Hagar was Pharaoh's daughter. When Pharaoh saw the miraculous acts that were done on Sarah's behalf in his palace, he took his daughter and gave her to him, to Abraham. He said, "It's preferable that my daughter be a maidservant in that household than be the mistress in another household." That is what it is written. And she had an Egyptian maidservant, and her name was Hagar. Here is your reward, ha'agrich. Avimelech, too, when he saw the miracles that were performed on Sarah's behalf in his palace, he took his daughter and also gave her to him. He said, "It is preferable that my daughter be a maidservant in that household than be the mistress in another household. That is what is written, the daughters of kings are among those who honor you. At your right hand stands the consort attired in gold from Ophir." That's from Bereshit Rabbah 45:1. And another source that also calls her the daughter of Pharaoh is in Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer 26. Rabbi Joshua ben Korchach says, because of his love for her, Pharaoh wrote in her marriage document giving her all his wealth, whether in silver or in gold or in manservants or land, and he wrote giving her the land of Goshen for a possession. Therefore the children of Israel dwelt in the land of Goshen, in the land of their mother Sarah. He also wrote giving her Hagar, his daughter from a concubine, according to Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer, as her handmaid. And whence do we know that Hagar was the daughter of Pharaoh? Because it is said, "Now Sarai, Avram's wife, bore him no children, and she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar." Pharaoh rose up early in the morning, confused because he had not approached her, and he sent and called Abram, and said to him, "Behold, Sarai thy wife is before thee, and all the deeds of her marriage contract are with her. Take her and go. Do not tarry in his land. As it is said, now therefore behold thy wife, take her and go." And Pharaoh gave men charge concerning him, and they sent him forth. So it's sort of saying that because it says, "Take your wife and go," it's not just referring to Sarah here, it's also referring to Hagar, who he's also giving away as Abraham's wife. And now if we go back to Jubilees and we search Hagar, we're going to get to how Hagar became part of that family. Now after Abraham has a covenant of the halves, he rejoices, he tells Sarah what happens, that he had this covenant with God, where God made all these promises to him. And he believes he's going to have a child because that was part of the prophecy that God made clear to him. But Sarai does not really have a child. She's older. She advises Avram to go to Hagar, my Egyptian maidservant. Perhaps I will build up children for you through her. Avram heard the voice of Sarai, his wife, and said to her, "Do so." So Sarai took her Egyptian maidservant Hagar and gave her to Avram, her husband, to be his wife. He went to her, she conceived and gave birth to his son. He named him Ishmael in the 5th year of this week. Some people say Ishmael, God will hear in the future. Yishma is future tense. God will hear our suffering. God will save us. This was the 86th year of Avram's life. Next, let's go into this whole chapter here where Hagar and Ishmael. Isaac is weaned in the 1st year of the 4th week in this Jubilee. Avram makes a great feast in the 3rd month on the day his son Isaac was weaned. Ishmael, the son of Hagar the Egyptian, was in front of his father in this place. Avram rejoiced and blesses God for having seen his sons and not having died childless. He remembered the words that he had spoken to him on the day Lot separated from him, and he rejoiced because God had given him descendants on earth to inherit the earth. So he's very glad, Abraham, that he has this descendant, that he has Ishmael, and that he has Isaac at this point already also. Now Sarah sees Ishmael playing around and that Avram was rejoicing very much, and she became jealous of Ishmael. In the Bible, in the Torah, in Genesis 21:9, there is a perfect correlation where Sarah sees Ishmael playing around, but it doesn't actually say that she became jealous of Ishmael. The reason this is in this translation is because it's in all of the translations of Jubilees that I saw. And so I had to include it exactly as it was to be honest to my project. But it's important to understand that jealousy in the Torah is actually not exactly how we consider jealousy. Like God is considered jealous, and jealousy is more of like a good thing. It's a possessiveness, a sacred possessiveness, a healthy possessiveness. And so in this sense, it would be she was becoming jealous and possessive of her own son. She wants her son to be raised righteously, and yet she sees Ishmael doing something that is not correct. And there's different opinions, and there's very harsh opinions also in the Midrashes of exactly what he did, but I don't want to go into detail. I'm just giving the options that are given throughout the sources, either worshiping idols, acting immorally, sexual immorality, or just fighting about the inheritance, that he wants the inheritance to be his. Whatever it was, Sarah becomes possessive of her own son. That's what jealousy means here. She says to Avram, drive away this maidservant together with her son. The son of this maidservant will not inherit together with my son Isaac. These words were grievous in Abraham's eyes because of his maidservant and his son, to drive them away from him. God said to Abraham, do not be troubled because of the boy and your maidservant. All that Sarah tells you, hear her words and do them. It is through Isaac that your posterity will be named. As for the son of the maidservant, I will make him into a great nation also, because he is from your seed. Abraham got up early in the morning. He took bread and a container of water, put them on Hagar's shoulders, and sent her away with the boy. She left and wandered in the Beersheba desert. The water from the container finished, and the boy was thirsty. He was not able to walk, and he fell. His mother took him, set him by a bush, and went and sat down facing him from the distance of an arrow shot, saying, do not let me see the death of the boy. So this is an intense moment here with Hagar, where they walk away. They are sent on this journey. What do they have with them? Bread, a container of water, and she has the boy with her. She leaves, she wanders in Beersheba, in southern Israel region. The water finishes up, the boy is thirsty, he can't walk, he falls, according to this text. His mother took him, puts him by a bush. She goes and she sits down, facing him from the distance of an arrow shot. So she goes pretty far away from him, so she doesn't have to see the death of the boy. As she sat, she's crying. An angel of God, one of the holy ones, said to her, why do you cry, Hagar? Rise and take the boy, lead him by the hand, for God has heard your voice and seen the boy. She opens her eyes and she sees a well of water right there. She gives water to her child to drink, gets up, and goes to the desert of Paran. The boy grows and becomes an archer, and God was with him. So despite whatever happened that made Sarah want to send him away so that she could raise her son however she wanted to raise him, in the way of that ends up being the covenant of Israel, whatever happened, God is with him, and that's also here in the text. And he's still blessed. That's also here in the text. People make mistakes, people do negative things, but here we see that God was with him. His mother married him to one of the daughters of Egypt. So the mother was an Egyptian, she was a Hamite, she marries him to one of the daughters of Egypt, and so though he is Semitic through Abraham, he is also Hamite through Hagar, and that is this blend that becomes the Arab nation that we now see throughout Africa and the Middle East, and so it makes sense in terms of the boundaries as well. She gave birth to his son, and he named him Nebayot, because she said, God was close to me when I cried out to him. Now, Nebayot in Hebrew is related to Nevi'ut, prophecy, or Nevi'ot, prophetesses. It might also connect to a word meaning water that is flowing, where she saw the water flowing, but it could also relate to prophecy because an angel did open her eyes and have her see that the water was there, and so Hagar is seen as a sacred figure. Ishmael is also seen as blessed, and that God is with him. And then this is where we get the Nabateans, the ancient Arabs whose capital was in Rakmu, Petra, which is modern-day Jordan. So the Nabateans come from the Nebayot, and Nebayot was the name of Ishmael's son through the Egyptian that his mother married him to. His mother marries him to one of the daughters of Egypt. She gave birth to his son, and he named him Nebayot because she said, God was close to me when I cried out to him. And the other time Hagar is mentioned, again, is when there's a view of some of the tests that Abraham goes through. He notoriously is tested in 10 different ways by God, culminating in the most intense test, which is the binding of Isaac. But one of those tests is through having to send away Ishmael and Hagar, his maidservant. In everything that God tested Abraham, he was found faithful. His soul did not become impatient, and he didn't hesitate to act, as he was faithful and a lover of God. That is the final test mentioned here when it's talking about the tests. What does it say? In the first year of the 7th week, in the first month, in this Jubilee, on the 12th of the month, there were voices in heaven about Abraham. He was faithful to everything God told him. He loved God and remained faithful through every difficulty. The prince Mastama approached and said to God, behold, Abraham loves his son Isaac and delights in him above everything else. Tell him to offer him as a burnt offering on the altar, and you will see if he will obey this command. You will then know if he is faithful in everything you test him with. God knew that Abraham was faithful through every one of his trials because he had tested him in his country with famine, and had tested him with the wealth of kings. He had tested him through his wife when she was torn from him, and with circumcision. He had tested him through Ishmael and Hagar, his maidservant, when he sent them away. In everything he had tested him, he was found faithful. And so it is worth mentioning here also that throughout the ancient texts, it is very clear that the binding was of Isaac. It is mentioned all throughout Jubilees. It is mentioned all throughout the Bible. It is mentioned all throughout the Midrash. It is mentioned in so many places. And so in the Quran, it never mentions that it was Ishmael who was bound. It just says his son. And it's just so clear throughout the ancient texts that come thousands of years, many, many centuries before Islam was invented, before the Quran was written down or spoken through Muhammad, anything like that. So that would possibly be a separate video to talk about the binding, but just pointing out that here it does talk about the binding of Isaac, of course, because that is uniform in countless places throughout the ancient Hebrew and ancient texts in general. All right, next, later on in the text, after Abraham buries Sarah, here we have, in the 4th year, Abraham finds a wife for his son Isaac. Her name was Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel, the son of Nahor, the brother of Avram, the sister of Lavan, and the daughter of Bethuel. Bethuel was the son of Milcah, wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother. Abraham married a 3rd wife named Keturah from among the daughters of his household servants, as Hagar had died before Sarah. So just to be clear, though there is an opinion elsewhere in remote places that Hagar might have been Keturah, it's very clear in Jubilees that they were 2 separate people, because Hagar died before Sarah according to Jubilees. And then it talks about Keturah and how she gives birth to 6 sons. So who was Keturah exactly? There are many different opinions, but it's not clear exactly. And that's it for Hagar in the Book of Jubilees. Hagar and Ishmael are sent away in around 2022 Anno Mundi, from the year of creation. All right, that's it for this short video on Hagar in the Book of Jubilees. Hope you enjoyed. This is Modern Jubilees, and we'll see you next time.